Hey guys, Jordy Death here, and I figured I wanted to do like a little small video of like some behind the scenes of me recording an episode for my podcast, Murder's My Sign. So what you're hearing now is going to be some clips from episode 3 of Ed Gein, Vile Virgo. Alright? I think we see a lot of the same stuff in today's news. And I also believe that this is where the mythology of Ed Gein was really born. People associate him with being a cannibal and a necrophile, when really, he never consumed human flesh and never rightly confessed to having relations with any of the corpses. That Monday, Eddie had finally broken his 30-hour bout of silence. He had acknowledged to killing Mrs. Warden in a statement given to District Attorney of Washira County, Earl Klein. It was during this talk that Klein had asked Gein about cannibalism. Had he butchered Mrs. Warden with the intention of eating her? On this point, Gein claims to have had a lapse of memory, which will be a running theme throughout his interrogations and interviews with both the police and psychiatrists. You would have thought that given all that was found in the house, that there couldn't possibly be anything more that could shock the investigators. But when asked about the various heads, vulvas, breasts, nose, and lips were from people that he had murdered, Eddie claimed that, to his knowledge, he hadn't killed anyone because Mrs. Warden's death was an accident. And the body parts? Why, the answer to where those came from was simple: graveyards. The lawmen were gobsmacked. Eddie explained that beginning in 1947, he had made numerous nightly visits to as many as 40 to local area cemeteries. This stretched over a 5-year period, and most of the time he returned home without committing any offense. However, at least 9 times he had dug up and opened caskets just to remove whatever bits and pieces he had wanted, and then covered the caskets back up again. Gein had read the local newspapers, paying special attention to the obituaries for newly dead women who were middle-aged or older. He didn't have much to say beyond this, though, because he claimed to have been in a daze when all of this was taking place. Ed Gein was officially charged with first-degree murder, and bail was set at $10,000. The contents of Gein's house were boxed up and transported to the state crime lab in Madison. When everything arrived at the lab, it took 2 men close to 30 minutes to unload the truck of boxes. Reporters flocked to the van, hoping to get a glimpse or a photo of something horrific to print in the paper. When the lab began to sift through the horrors contained within the boxes, officials from across the state came to the small jail cell in which Eddie was being held, with the intention of interviewing the 50-year-old soft-spoken man to see if they could possibly piece together any of the missing persons who had been reported over the last 10 years in Wisconsin. None of the disappearances, though, other than Mary Hogan and Bernice Warden, could be tied to or attributed to Ed Gein. Although Gein was the talk of the town, it was the army of reporters who had turned the small village into a freak show. Reporters from all over the state, the nation, had flocked to Plainfield when the case broke, and there was no trouble finding local sources to supply juicy quotes. Now, the officials on the case were very tight-lipped and did not tolerate the media presence well, but there were plenty of residents who were more than happy to cooperate with the press because they could not resist the temptation of seeing their name printed in the papers. There were those in town who loved the attention that Plainfield was getting. Restaurants and local motels were making a lot of money housing and feeding all of the reporters. But more often than not, the majority of the residents couldn't wait for everything to die down so they could get back to normal. But nothing in Plainfield would ever be normal again. And that's just a little bit of me recording. So hope you guys like the video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, all at Jordy Death. And stay tuned for when this episode 3 will be released. And spoiler alert, there's going to be a part 4. If you want to get first dibs on listening to the episodes before they're made public, please go to my Patreon, patreon.com/murderismysign. $5 a month gets you early access and shout outs in the podcast. So that's all I got to say. Hope you guys like this a little bit behind the scenes of me recording. I know it's not too terribly exciting, but yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other and rest in peace.